Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding, by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippa.
Last time in part 2 of our mini-series Cut Costs with Smart Flood Protection Planning, we stepped into the shoes of homeowners, business managers and public servants, each trying to protect what matters most from devastating floods. We heard the painful stories of families who lost everything from their children's keepsakes to years of savings. We uncovered how most flood protection purchases begin, not with smart planning, but with a desperate phone call or a rushed quote request. We saw how business departments often treat flood protection like office furniture, asking for catalogs and price lists without ever addressing what really counts, the technical, structural and long-term needs of the property. Hello and welcome back to this mini-series Cut Costs with Smart Flood Protection Planning. Yes, here comes the truth. A catalog doesn't protect your house. A quick offer doesn't keep your office dry. And skipping real consultation doesn't cut costs. It creates bigger ones later. In today's episode, we'll unpack the powerful difference between procurement and consulting in flood protection, and how making the right choice early can save your property, your money and your peace of mind. Okay, let's dive into part 3 of Cut Costs with Smart Protection Planning. The first headline is supply or consultation. A private homeowner does not understand the different ways to protect his house. In little cases, we talk to a civil engineer or somebody with experience in construction. However, they build their house in many cases, and the homeowners, and understand the way of construction. Some of them, others just bought it. But they do not consider flood protection as a construction work. I will repeat the sentence because it is so important. But they do not consider flood protection as a construction work. They see it as a supply, like going to the next hardware store and purchasing a drilling machine, a barbecue, or a shower cabin and a lavabo. A purchasing department for the private sector and the public sector, and not for the private sector, for the business sector and the public sector, usually understands neither the technical background nor the need to incorporate the company's business habits into flood protection. These people normally are people with a commercial background, not with an engineering background. That's their job. They are in favor of something cheap. But is it cheap if you spend your hard-earned money on certain flood barriers you do not know at all, and then when the heavy rain comes, what then? Would you fly with an aircraft that does not provide serious aeroplanes with well-educated pilots? I call such an airline a never-come-back airline. Would you like to spend your hard-earned money on they don't protect you because they don't work flood barriers? I make you the decision up to you, okay? A quick decision to purchase flood barriers because they are so cheap leads in most cases into a disaster. The flood barriers can't be installed properly and they don't work because they are cheap. Why were they cheap? There's a reason for that. I have five plus 3 reasons. The material may not be of the right quality. That was reason number 1. Reason number 2, why the barriers were so cheap. The aluminium is of low grade. The reason number 3 why the barriers were so cheap is that the steel is not of high quality. And number 4, the sealing system is childish and does not seal at all. Number 5, why the flood barriers are so cheap. The flood barriers do not withstand any additional kinetic impact of waves created by driving cars, vans, buses, trucks, or floating debris like trunks of trees, swimming refrigerators, or swimming cars. These were the top 5 reasons why the flood barriers can't be don't work because they were so cheap. And the +3 are coming now. As a user, how will you notice the difference if you only investigate the price but not the quality? Number 6, is the thickness of the flood barrier too thin? Number 7, is the metal sheet of the barrier too thin? And number 8, or is the rigidity not high enough? We got a customer who was flooded because he bought a sheep barrier. He did not know us before. And then he said, why didn't I know you before? I bought this crap of barrier and then I realized it didn't work. I got flooded. And then I asked him, what kind of a type of barrier is it? And he said, it's this and that. I do not mention the brand name here. And said, okay, how thick was it? He said 90 millimeters. I said, what 90 millimeters? 90 millimeters, that is, are we in the kindergarten? That is what you can use for playing, when the kids are playing with something. That is childish. Our barriers, for instance, the RS demountable flood barriers that are certified and well tested, etc. They measure 57 millimeters. That is 3 times. You need 3 barriers from the cheap ones, and now calculate if you multiply the price by 3, and then you still don't have the same product, because there is much more. Anyway, and the thickness of the metal that is used is the same. Sometimes it's only 2 millimeters thick. We use 3 to 5 millimeters thickness to withstand this impact of kinetic energy. What I mentioned, that what the people in most of the cases, in 99% forget. That the moment one car is passing by your location, it creates huge waves, and these waves are powerful enough to destroy all windows of shops. We have I always show a video when I do a webinar or a Zoom meeting with a van driving along a street, and the waves created by this van, and the water is only up to the knees in the street. That is so huge that it is destroying all the shop windows. Okay, anyway, that where can you see the difference between these barriers, etc.? Have you ever seen a hydrostatic test of these barriers? When we did that, the RS demountable flood barriers, as an example, these barriers were filled up to 2.10 meters with water. And then a 40-kilogram block of wood was repeatedly knocked against them, again and again. You may ask yourself, what is this and what is it good for? You might expect these barriers to work when floating debris hits them. Have you ever seen the videos of TV of a flooded region? There is always something floating in the water. The water is not clean. It's a muddy, dirty and disgusting dark river of water, mud, garbage and floating things. And the water becomes a nasty river with a lot of high energetic waves. That is the reality. Will the sheep flood barriers withstand such an impact? The answer is no, they will most probably not. This is the reason why we have tested our flood barriers with the highest testing standards in the world, tested in Germany and in the USA. And now you know which questions you need to ask before you continue to purchase flood barriers. You know the risk of the so-called sheep flood barriers. You know the kinetic energy due to waves and floating debris is normally not considerate for such sheep flood barrier solutions. The title of this mini-series is Cut Costs with Smart Flood Protection Planning. I will give you all the answers in the next episode of Flood Protection Secrets, part 4 of Cut Costs with Smart Flood Protection Planning. And you will get my 3 best pieces of advice that will take you to another level of knowledge and help you save a lot of money. If you have liked this episode, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, or contact the flood experts at their Asian headquarters in the Philippines, or contact me directly. Just Google Andreas Klippe. The links can be found below this podcast description. Stay safe and flood free. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood-free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with the new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.thefloodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering. German quality. Safe. Flood protection secrets. The secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.